Alrighty guys, and welcome back to another episode on the Daily Pit Stop. Now today, this particular video, it's on the news. It's been announced that Gabriel Bortoleto will be signing a multi-year deal with Kick Sauber, and that obviously would mean Zhou and Valtteri Bottas will both be leaving the Sauber family at the end of the season. So next season, we will have Bortoleto partnering up alongside Nico Hulkenberg. So a completely new lineup for Sauber. Obviously Binotto as well as the team principal, and Andreas Seidel obviously left the team some time back. So in this particular video, we're just going to go through this particular news and I'll just give a little bit of insight or two. But yeah, let's jump right in. So I think first and foremost, we have to really establish that Bortoleto is a really good driver, considering his results in Formula 3 and Formula 2. In fact, I think he arguably emulates a little bit of an Oscar Piastri kind of driver. You know, Piastri won F3, Piastri won F2 the year after that, and obviously had a little bit of a quote-unquote sabbatical. He didn't get a seat in Formula 1. I mean, his saga with Alpine and McLaren, that happened a couple of years back before he settled with McLaren. But I think if you look at Bortoleto's results, right, in Formula 3, he obviously won it in 2023 with Trident. Really consistent, as you can tell. Only had two feature race wins, but otherwise, had additional 4 podiums to his name, and was pretty consistent throughout. Only one retirement the entire season, and only one race, Spa feature race, outside of the points. So otherwise, I think it was a really good season from Bortoleto, and I think that in some ways put his name up there amongst the teams. I think there was a certain level of potential that you can see out of Bortoleto. And then in Formula 2, which is this year with Invicta Racing, to me, I think his most memorable race has to be the one in Monza, right? A remarkable win. If I'm not wrong, it was from last to first. So that was impeccable driving from Bortoleto. I think that really put him in a shop window. But I think we've got to establish the fact that it's a multi-year deal. It's not a one-year deal. So this means that Sauber are really, I think Binotto at least is really looking at the youth that Bortoleto can provide, and that would also mean that Kimi Antonelli, Oliver Behrman, him, as well as Jack Doohan, all 4 rookies. I don't know if you want to consider Oliver Behrman as a rookie, considering how he's been in the seat in the Haas car and in the Ferrari car this season, for Ferrari once and Haas twice now. So he's been in the car a couple of times, have some level of expertise, you would say. But again, from Brazil, he's obviously still learning with, how to drive the car in wet weather conditions. But next season is really going to be interesting for sure. 4 rookies in the same season. The driver lineup is going crazy. I think the only 2 teams that confirmed at least to not change their drivers are McLaren, with sticking with Lando and Oscar, and as well as Aston Martin sticking with Fernando and Lance. Although yes, the Red Bull at the moment, the 2 drivers are the same, but I think we'll talk about Perez a little bit later on, with the implications of Bortoleto signing for Kick Sauber. But yeah, I think it's a really good signing, I think, for Sauber. You've got the experience of Hulkenberg, and I think Hulkenberg can provide a lot of mentorship, at least to Bortoleto. In fact, arguably, you can say it's a direct replacement of Bottas and Zhou in the sense of the partnership that both of them have been having, right? Bortoleto emulating Zhou in that regard, learning from the senior of Hulkenberg, or Zhou would have learned from Valtteri Bottas. But what does that mean for both Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu? Now, Zhou Guanyu, I'm not exactly too sure what his future is going to be like. I think since the start of the season, when there were a lot of rumours coming in, who's going to replace who in the drivers' market, I think Zhou's time in Formula 1 was going to be up, but he's made history regardless, right? Being the first Chinese driver in Formula 1, I think that in itself is a great feat. It's a great achievement. And to be honest, I think he had a lot of sponsors as well, which I think brought some monetary benefit into Sauber. He had this opportunity to race in China this year as well. So it's been quite positive, I think, for Zhou. One can probably argue that the car wasn't at his disposal to perform better. I don't think he did really badly in Formula 2 when the season prior, he was called out for Formula 1. But unfortunately, when you look at his performances throughout the season, even though the car wasn't at its best, it didn't really feel like Zhou was putting in performances as consistent or as good as Valtteri. I think there was never a time when he was up with Valtteri. And when Valtteri first came in, together with Zhou, you remember when the Alfa Romeo back then had a really good car, and Bottas really capitalized on that score, like 50 points, I think it was. But Zhou unfortunately couldn't do anything because he was a rookie that year. But still, I think if you look at the past 2 seasons, he scored a total of 12.6 each season. It's not the end of the world, I think, but it's not like he's not been a world beater. He's not been fantastic. I don't think it's at the extent of that, he deserved to keep a seat sort of level of performance. You get what I mean? So with that being said, and when a seat is always very competitive, you know that in Formula One, your time can be pretty precious. Unless you're Lance Stroll, it's not easy really to stay in a Formula One seat for an extended period of time, because you've got to provide a lot of things. Bottas provided the experience with a little bit of pace here and there, with a little bit of performance as well. But in Mercedes, you see what Bottas can do with Mercedes, doing exceptionally well with the car, getting the car into Q3 every single session. That is a remarkable feat. I think no one can achieve in their own team even. So, with that being said, I think Zhou's time at Sauber in this case was going to be up at some point. He was obviously going to be replaced, I felt. And when Hulkenberg was called in, I was like, he's bound to be a straight replacement for Zhou. As for Bottas, now, I think it's a very interesting one, and I feel bad for Valtteri. I felt that arguably, him and Hulkenberg, I think it would have been a good partnership. Again, it probably could have been Binotto's decision in that sense, where having two senior drivers may not be the best moving forward. I think it does make sense to have a little bit of youth here and there, 100% I agree. But you've got to feel for Bottas. When he got kicked out of Mercedes, when Russell replaced him, I felt like that was also pretty bad for him. He was a great second fiddle to Lewis Hamilton in Mercedes. And I felt when Mercedes just want to continue on a little bit of a constructor's run, right, to support Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri was clearly the man. And to be honest, Valtteri is at 10 race wins under his belt. He's not a bad driver. He's a fantastic driver. Not many drivers get wins in their Formula One careers. Some people have raced for like 10 seasons or so, like Kevin Magnussen, for example, and still have not gotten a race win. Hulkenberg has raced for many seasons, has not even got a podium. So Valtteri Bottas has been a fantastic driver throughout his tenure at Formula One for sure. Where is he going to go to next? Now, I believe there was a clause that could potentially see him back in Mercedes as a reserve driver. I think that may be a good thing for him to just take a year off and maybe see where he stands again. But do I think his full time at Formula One, is it up? I argue probably, unless something happens. I think if Fernando Alonso was to retire next year, maybe Bottas would stand a chance of filling in that seat at Aston Martin. But otherwise, I feel that it's going to be difficult for Bottas to find another seat in Formula One. I mean, now, as I said, with the number of rookies that are rising and certain drivers still staying in their place because they've been really consistent with their teams, it's not easy to slot in anymore. But I think in terms of Bottas's future, the only thing we can do is obviously wait and to see, what he's going to announce to us, the public. But yeah, I think it's unfortunate. At least I feel bad for Bottas. He's done really well in Kick Sauber, to be honest. I think even this season as well, when the car wasn't at its best, he still managed to put the car in a really good position, qualified it really well. I think it was rather consistent as well. But unfortunately, yeah, his time at Kick Sauber is up. And as I said, we'll wait to see where he's going to go to next. So with that signing of Bortoleto, I think one person we have to talk about is Franco Colapinto. Now, again, Colapinto's signing at Williams to replace Sargent, I think it came as a little bit of a shock in that sense, where I thought Williams were going to give Sargent the rest of the season to just play it out and wait for Sainz to come in. But Williams were like, they're not going to do that anymore in terms of crashes, in terms of the damage that Sargent has brought to the team. James Vowles decided to make the call and, axe Sargent and bring in Colapinto. Colapinto has been fantastic for Williams, as I've said multiple times. Of course, Brazil was a little bit of a curveball for sure. Had crashes in qualifying and in the race as well. And obviously, Williams did have a good weekend. If you want to watch my reaction to the Brazilian Grand Prix, you may do that. Link in the description or up above if I put it up there. Yeah, but again, Colapinto has been fantastic. The Argentinian support, really, despite only covering half a season, is immense, really. The support that he's gotten from his fans remarkable. In Brazil, I saw that. It was crazy. It was hectic. And the amount of sponsors I think he can bring in is also pretty remarkable. But what does that mean for Colapinto and his future in Formula One? Do I think that he deserves a seat in Formula One? Yes, I think based on his performance at Williams thus far, he probably deserves a seat. Now, what does that mean? Now, we only have one seat left on the grid, and that is the Racing Bull seat. Now, it's really difficult. Again, it's obviously up to the Red Bull family. I think it's deliberately being put like this, in my opinion. The way I see it is, it's deliberately put like that to give people like Liam Lawson an opportunity, to give Yuki Tsunoda an opportunity to probably go up to the Red Bull seat. And that obviously would still mean that Perez's seat is in jeopardy. And I still think it is. You know, Perez just hasn't been the driver at all this season. Last season was also not that good, but it's just that the car's been so dominant to the point that he was still able to pick up a good amount of P2s, good amount of P3s to put him second in the championship. But this year, you know, the car hasn't been at its best, and immediately you can see the stark contrast in results. The gap between Verstappen and Perez is too big. It's too much. You know, you've got one person's first in the championship and the other one is eighth in the championship. And in terms of the points difference, I think it's in fact even close to double, or it's more than double now, I believe. So this is really not it for Sergio. And I think if you ask me, it makes sense for Red Bull to get him out of the team already. It wouldn't make sense for him to continue to stay. I think if they want to give Sergio a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, or give him a little bit of service, you know, put him in the Racing Bull seat and get one of the two up. And I think, obviously, to me, it will make sense to get Yuki Tsunoda up. But obviously, Helmut Marko has sort of said out that Yuki Tsunoda will probably not be considered for the Red Bull seat, which I don't really understand. I think Yuki has done exceptionally well. He's developed as a driver massively in Formula One. And I think he's quite worthy of that seat, in my opinion, with the performances that he's been putting in. He's been less irrational. He's been less rash in the things that he do in terms of the radio, etc. He's developed a lot. I think he's matured a lot, Yuki Tsunoda. I think by going to that Red Bull seat, I think giving it the opportunity would have a lot of pressure on him for sure. But I think in some ways, I think I can see him doing decently well in the first season at least, and maybe use that as a foundation and build it up from there. But I think the only situation for Colapinto right now is if Perez loses his seat completely in the Red Bull family, one of the Racing Bull guys, preferably Yuki Tsunoda in my opinion, gets promoted to the Red Bull seat by the end of the year. And that will mean that there would still be one place in the Racing Bull, the seat, right, that's available there. And I think Colapinto probably would slot in there. Well, I think he'll do well Racing Bulls, probably. I think he work with Liam? I think probably as well. I think that would be very, very interesting. It would be a very interesting approach, really, to see how both of them actually collaborate and work together. But I think that's the only way Colapinto is going to get a seat in Formula One next year. Otherwise, he's probably going to have to wait for another year. Where does that put him? Maybe back in Formula 2 for next year. But ultimately, it would be quite a shame. I think Colapinto has really put himself out there. He's definitely in the shop window for sure. But with the limited number of seats that are left in the paddock right now, with only one left, he's got to hope that something happens and causes a domino effect to allow him to at least stand an opportunity to, you know, have another shot in another team in Formula One. So that'll be it, really. It's a quick reaction to the Bortoleto signing. I think it's really exciting to see what Bortoleto can provide to Sauber, and as well as what the paddock can probably see from him. We've not seen him in the Formula One car, I don't think he's went for any FP1s, correct me if I'm wrong. But it will be interesting, 100%. I think I'm really looking forward to 2025 already. The many crazy events that have already happened this year. I think it obviously started off with Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari. That was crazy enough. But yeah, otherwise, it would be a very interesting season next year. I'm really looking forward to it. And we'll see what the rest of this season has to offer, at least. You know, the title. Constructors still on the line. Drivers is probably Max Verstappen's. And we still got the 6th place fight at the bottom there. We don't know who's going to get it. But yeah, but I think that will be it for this particular video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye.